their whole life is spent. You see, the whole effort is to fulfill their sensual desires, things of that nature. This is an inferior human existence. It is an inferior use of the human existence. And when usually that kind of human being dies, and remember, we all gonna die. Make no mistake about it. Be very clear on that. And when this human who has used their existence in an inferior manner die, immediately it plunges back down in the cycle of full life. Instantly. Instantly starts the trip all over. It has wasted its human existence and the fulfillment of just sensual desires, things of that nature. So the mystics have said that some of us, therefore, use our human existence in a very inferior form. We do nothing but waste it in the pursuit of sensual pleasures. They said those of us with a little bit more intelligence, we use our human existence in a very average and mediocre way. Some of us use our human existence in a very average way, which simply means that we remain simply distracted throughout our whole life. Simply distracted. We occupy ourselves with trivia, just anything to do. You know, we're into TV, theater, I mean any activity, you see, that keeps us distracted, right? That can serve as a substitute form of gratification. The only real thing that really gratifies us is to attain this peace of mind, this oneness, this happiness. Failing to be able to do that, we create some substitute form of gratification, right? You with me? And then we waste our whole life wallowing in pursuing these substitute forms of gratification for the authentic gratification of the attainment of oneness with God, right? So we substitute false forms of happiness, don't we? And then we busily occupy ourselves with that our whole life. Let me get a PhD, let me get a wife, let me get some children, let me get a car, let me get a house, let me get a bigger house, let me get a different wife, you know what I mean? And so forth and so on. And the whole life is spent like that, just caught up in all kind of trivia, all kinds of nonsense. You see, the whole ideal is to go on, you know, finding different ways to artificially gratify the deep urge to obtain authentic happiness. And since that requires too much effort, then let me just go with some bullshit. You know what I mean? Life is characterized by bullshit. Life full of nothing but bullshit. You see? Not going anywhere. Not attaining anything. A very mediocre existence. Humdrum. Not particularly interested in spiritual attainment. Not particularly interested in developing a moral life, or none of those kind of things. Just happy-go-lucky, have a good time. You know, let me find as many activities that distract me. They're into entertainment. Their whole life they seek to be entertained. They are lovers of games. They love games because games distract them. You understand? And that's how they spend their whole life. In the distracted games and trivial activities in pursuit of some substitute form of gratification. Nothing eventful happens in that human existence. And again, they have wasted the precious opportunity that they were afforded. And of course, then there is the precious human existence that the mystics talk about. If we use our opportunity as a human being in a precious way, then we come into this life and we're in search of one thing only, the path that leads us back to the attainment of this fundamental awareness of our oneness with God. We become seekers. We're looking for teachers, you see. We respond to religion. We respond to and willingly accept the restraints of a moral life. We're not resistant to that. We're looking high and low. We're going everywhere we can on every nook and cranny in search of the way back to this fundamental state. This is a precious human existence. We're lucky enough to be born in the world at a time when there's teachings. We're born in a country where we can encounter the teachings, the Dharma, the way, the insights that these masters and mystics have left to us in order to guide us back to the state of awareness of our fundamental oneness with God. You see, if we're very lucky, we come in contact with a teacher, with a master, we get initiations and all of those other things. Very fortunate, very precious, you see. So, again, we need to begin to understand how to go about using our human existence in such a way that it becomes precious. And what we each have to do on an individual basis is to look and see. Have you been using your life like it's precious? Or have you been using it in this very taking it for granted type of frame of mind? Or have you been using it in an inferior way? And you need to be ruthlessly honest with yourself when it comes to this. Because remember, you're not guaranteed to get this human existence again. This is a rare phenomenon. It is very rare for life form to come in this kind of body. Very, very rare. Very rare. And the question becomes, what are you going to do? And that's a personal question that you really got to look at. And you really got to answer. And remember, death is lurking, and you don't know when this is going to be. You don't know when this is going to be. You do know that it will end any moment. And with that, the ending of the opportunity to attain light. Right? So we need to begin to sober up a little bit and really begin to appreciate this thing. Now today I just wanted to give a general outline of the curriculum, and then we'll have some time to explore that. So we're going to be looking at the value of this precious human existence and try to come to a new understanding about that, so that we no longer take our human existence for granted and use it in an inferior and mediocre way, not attaining anything. The other thing that we need to pause and reflect on is the nature of this life in the world that we all are witnessing, and understand the reality of suffering. We have to understand the reality of suffering. Unless we have discovered and know how to use this human existence in a precious way, the net result is suffering. And whenever we look around, look and see the suffering. You have to understand that unless and until one can pierce through this illusion that the worldly way of life will result in happiness, until we can pierce that illusion, we will not begin to use this human existence appropriately. And we're all under the illusion that by following the sadhana of the world, sadhana means the way of the world, the practice of the world, by following the world approach toward happiness, that we can become happy. And we're each deceived about that. And we have not paused for a moment and stood back and look at this. Now you've been thinking if you get married and get a wife, how happy you'll be. Now look and see. There's millions of people married with a husband and wife. Are they happy? They have not been able to obtain happiness. You thinking, well, if I could just get enough money and get this and get that, well, look and see. Those who have gotten the money, are they happy? They have not obtained happiness. Look closely. And remember, you have to look. In the West, we have a very bad habit of substituting others' experiences for our own experiences, which really reduces to nothing but a belief. You have to go way beyond your belief See if the world is full of suffering. Don't go by what Buddha said, or Jesus said, or Mahavir, or Kabir, or Dagu. Look, see with your own eyes, use your own intelligence. You've been endowed with it. And see, is it the case? Is it true? Is life just the way it is lived, the way it is promoted, the way we have been trained to approach it, and all of these things? Does that lead to the obtaining of happiness? Because if you don't obtain happiness, what is the point? If you are not attaining happiness in this human birth, what is the point? What are you doing with it? Or what value is it to you? I mean, have you thought about it? And therefore we have to look at it and see that all of the ways that the world has suggested that we go about obtaining happiness only leads to suffering. And you have to see that clearly, and you have to see it with your own eyes. And you have to become convicted of that. You can't play with it. Because if you're really not convicted, you see, at the level of your heart, you'll say, okay, on the surface level, intellectually you believe it, but in your heart you don't believe it. And it is reflected in your striving, because we can look into your life and see what you're striving to do. You will see if it's mediocre and inferior. Yeah, I heard the Buddha or Jesus or Kabir or the masters have said this and that, but man, you know, they weren't in Chicago, right? And they weren't around all this stuff, man. There wasn't no Wall Street then. They don't know what they're talking about. That kind of mindset will guarantee that you continually wallow in misery. That kind of mindset that you know as much as these masters. And these are the kind of wrong views that we hold in our mind. The first one is that we are as spiritual and know as much as these masters, these master beings. Deep down inside, you feel you know as much, you are as spiritually evolved as Jesus. Therefore, you can take the liberty of editing Jesus' teaching. Or Jesus had this right, but he had this wrong. Or you edit Moses' teaching, or you edit the teachings of the Buddha, or you edit the teachings of a Mahavira or Kabir, or even of the living master. You edit it, you change it to fit in with your level of understanding, because deep down inside you feel you know as much as the master. Some of us feel we know more. And as a result, we're not able to take advantage of their wisdom and their instruction. Is that about right? And so we go on following our own mind. And what has it given you? Look at it. You've been following your mind all your life. Have you obtained happiness? I mean, be honest with it with yourself. Have it worked? You've been following all your little schemes you've been coming up with in the wee hours of the night. Well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and if I get that, then I'm going to obtain happiness. Have you obtained it? No. Not at all. You have no wisdom. And you're too arrogant to obtain at the feet of these great master beings who have come for no other purpose but to rescue us from this nightmare. And we have to look at it. And until you become convinced of that, it's very difficult for you to obtain wisdom. You see, there are certain wrong views that we hold that make the obtaining of wisdom impossible. And this is the first one. There have been many masters, many saints, many sages, many gurus. They have come, and all of them, without exception, have came and provided us with the means, the methods, and the instructions that will generate the experience of this wisdom. This has been going on for thousands of years. Great men, great women with tremendous insight. And we have come across it, but we did not take advantage of it because we had this tainted mind of ours, this kind of inferiority, you see, where it allowed us to start generating the belief that I know as much as the Buddha, as Jesus, as Mahavira. and therefore I can edit the instruction. And you've been editing it, and what has been the result? Have you obtained any happiness? And you have to look into your life, because that's the only life you can look into. So this is not about looking into somebody else's life. You understand? This is, we're not going to get caught up in that game, right? Where you're busy trying to solve the problems of the world and you just catch a pure hell. You're not going to play that game here. This is about look and see how are you going to help anybody take advantage of their human existence if you haven't taken advantage of your own? How are you going to do that? How are you going to be a component in somebody else's experience of happiness when you just miserable yourself? What's up with that? You see? It's not going to work. It's more crap. So this is something we have to look at ourselves. So that is the first thing that we have to, when we begin to examine these beautiful teachings throughout this course in the deep literature, these beautiful insights and instruction that these great masters have left for us as guidelines for the obtaining of happiness, then we're going to have to approach them with a certain degree of humility and understanding that these beings probably know more about the art of obtaining happiness. I mean, is that a legitimate position for us to take, right? To kind of hold ourselves and to not put ourselves up there on the same level as the Buddha. Although we have the potential, yes, make no mistake about it. We have the potential to become enlightened, no doubt about it. We have the potential to